Hi, today we're going to take a look at the Spanish alphabet. Let's get started. The alphabet in Spanish is very similar to the alphabet in English. It just has one additional letter, the ñ. The ñ goes between the letter N and the letter O in the alphabet. An easy way to remember where the ñ goes in the alphabet is to think of the Spanish word for boy, niño. You just have to remove the I from niño and you have the right order. As a note, a few years ago, the Spanish alphabet had two additional letters, the double L or doble L and the CH or che, but they're not recognized as official letters anymore. So, as we just said, the Spanish alphabet has the same letters as the English alphabet plus one, the ñ. Spanish is considered to be a phonetic language, where each letter has one specific sound. However, there are a few exceptions worth noticing. For example, the letter G sounds the same way it does in English, except when it is next to the letters E and I. In those cases, it sounds like this. GE would sound like G, and GI would sound like he. To make a soft G sound with both E and I, you need to add the letter U between the G and the vowels E and I. For example, in the words Miguel and Guillermo. Another letter that has a different sound is the letter Y or Y in Spanish. When it is next to a vowel, it has a soft sound as in yo. But when it is used to join two words, it sounds like E. For example, this and that, esto y aquello. The letter H is another special case. The letter H is not pronounced, it is mute. Pretend it doesn't exist, except when it is next to a C. The CH sounds similar to the way it does in English. For example, the word chocolate sounds just like in English, chocolate, chocolate. Another example of these kind of exceptions is the letter double L, which has a soft sound as in the word llave or llover. But when it is a single L, it sounds similar to the way it does in English, as in la or los. Now let's look at a few examples with each letter of the alphabet in Spanish. Pay close attention to the pronunciation of the letters. Although these pronunciations focus on the Spanish spoken in Mexico, they are very similar to the Spanish spoken in other countries. Let's get started. Let's begin with the letter A. Agua, water. Amarillo, yellow. Ardilla, squirrel. Now let's move on with the letter B, which is pronounced B in Spanish. Biblioteca, library. Bolsa, bag. Boca, mouth. Now the letter C, or C in Spanish. As a note, whenever the C is next to the letters E and I, it sounds similar to the letter S. Let's look at some examples. Casa, house. Comida, food. Cepillo, brush. Now the letter D, which in Spanish is de. Dedo, finger. Decir, to say. Doblar, to bend. Now the letter E in Spanish is E. Escuchar, to listen. Estar, to be. Elefante, elephant. Now let's look at the letter F, which in Spanish is called F. Foco, light bulb. Fiesta, party. Filosofía, philosophy. The letter G in Spanish is called G. A few examples are gato, cat. Guillermo, William. Gastar, to spend. Next is the letter H. Hacer, to do. Hablar, to speak. Hogar, home. The next one is the letter I, which in Spanish is called I. A few examples are inteligente, intelligent. Importante, important. India, India. Now the letter J, which in Spanish is called jota. A few examples are joven, young. Jalar, to pull. Juego, game. Now let's move on to the letter K, which in Spanish is called K. A few examples are kilogramo, kilo. Karate, karate. Koala, koala. Next is the letter L, which in Spanish is called L. Libertad, freedom. Ladrar, to bark. Lobo, wolf. Now the letter M, which in Spanish is called M. A few examples are México, Mexico. Minuto, minute. Morder, to bite. Next is the letter N, which in Spanish is called N. A few examples are nuevo, new. Norte, north. Nada, nothing. The next one is the letter ñ, the extra word in Spanish. A few examples are niño, boy. Año, year. Acompañar, to accompany. Next is the letter O, which in Spanish is called O. A few examples are ocho, 8. Obtener, to obtain. Ostión, oyster. The next one on the list is the letter P, which in Spanish is called P. A few words with that letter are parque, park. Puerta, door. Puente, bridge. We're almost done. Now let's move on to the letter Q, which in Spanish is called Q. The letter Q should always have a letter U on the right of it. It never goes alone. The sound of this letter is very similar to the letter K. Let's look at some examples. Querer, to want. Química, chemistry. Que, what. The next one on the list is the letter R, which in Spanish is called R. This one is a little hard for some people, but just be patient with yourself. With a little practice, you will get it right. Let's see some examples. Reír, to laugh. Ruido, noise. Reparar, to repair. Let's move on to letter S, which in Spanish is called ese. A few examples with it are sombra, shadow. Simple, simple. Sí, yes. The next one is the letter T. In Spanish is called te. Some words with it are tomate, tomato. Tener, to have. Televisión, television. The next letter is the letter U. In Spanish is called U. Some examples are único, unique. Uno, one. Uña, nail. Now the letter V. In Spanish is called V, V chica, or V. Some examples are ver, to see. Vender, to sell. And valor, value. The next one is the letter W, which in Spanish is called W. A few words are whiskey, whiskey. Windsurf, windsurf. Washington, Washington. The next one is the letter X, which in Spanish is called equis. The letter S in Spanish has two sounds. One is similar to the way it sounds in English. For example, the word exact or exactly. Exacto or exactamente. The other one sounds similar to the letter J in Spanish, or jota. For example, Mexico. However, there are exceptions derived from indigenous words. With practice, you will get familiar with the pronunciation of these words, and you don't have to worry about them right now. Just know they exist and move on. A few examples are Javier, Xavier. Mexico, Mexico. And exacto, exact. The next one is the letter Y, or Y in Spanish. A few examples are yo, I. Y, and. Yeso, plaster. The last one is the letter Z, or zeta in Spanish. A few examples are cebra, zebra. Zanahoria, carrot. And zapato, shoe. And remember, to learn more, feel free to visit learningspanishforbeginners.com. See you next time. Hasta la próxima.